Picture this. You are sitting in a seat wider than most people's office chairs. The screen in front of you is bigger than some televisions. There are over 4,500 channels of entertainment available to you. A flight attendant just brought you a full 3-course meal with complimentary wine. The cabin around you is quieter than any other aircraft you have ever been on. And somewhere above your head, on the deck above yours, there is a bar where passengers are standing and socializing at 40,000 feet. You paid $350 for your ticket. This is not a dream. This is not a first-class experience. This is economy class on the Airbus A380. And it is happening right now on routes across Asia and the Middle East for ordinary passengers who booked an ordinary ticket and ended up on the most extraordinary aircraft ever built. The Airbus A380 costs $445 million per aircraft. It took Airbus 15 years and $25 billion to develop. It is the largest passenger aircraft in the history of commercial aviation. No American airline ever bought one. European airlines are retiring theirs as fast as they can. And yet right now, in 2025, ordinary people flying out of Dubai, Singapore, Seoul, and Tokyo are stepping onto this machine every single day as casually as boarding a bus. How did this happen? How did the world's most expensive, most ambitious, most extraordinary passenger aircraft become the everyday ride of ordinary Asian travelers while the rest of the world gave up on it? That is the story we are telling today. And if you want more content like this, stories about Asia that go beyond the surface, subscribe right now. Every video on this channel goes deeper than the headlines. Part 1. What the A380 actually is and why it matters. Before we get into how Asia came to own this aircraft, you need to understand what the A380 actually is, because the numbers are genuinely difficult to absorb. The full-length double-deck aircraft has a typical seating for 525 passengers, with a maximum certified capacity for 853 passengers. The quadjet is powered by Engine Alliance GP7200 or Rolls-Royce Trent 900 turbofans, providing a range of 8,000 nautical miles. 853 passengers in a single aircraft. That is not a plane. That is a small town with wings. The A380 is the only commercial aircraft in the world with 2 full passenger decks running the entire length of the fuselage. Both decks, top to bottom, front to back. When you board an A380, you can go upstairs on an airplane because there are stairs. Airbus states that a full deck can be dedicated to premium passengers, while one deck can accommodate over 400 economy passengers. The aircraft is so large that airlines design it differently depending on what they want to achieve. Emirates uses one version to carry over 600 passengers on high-density routes. Singapore Airlines uses a version with only 471 passengers because it dedicates more space to premium cabins. The same aircraft, configured completely differently, serving completely different purposes. The A380 has an excellent safety record, and over 20 years of flight has never had a fatal accident or hull loss. 20 years, over 800,000 flights, 7.3 million hours in the air, 0 fatalities, 0 hull losses. It is not just the largest passenger aircraft ever built, it is one of the safest. And Airbus stopped making it in 2021. Only 251 were ever built, which means every single A380 flying today is irreplaceable. When they are gone forever. The question is, who decided to keep them flying? And the answer is almost entirely Asia. Part 2. The aircraft that saved Asia's skies. Let us go back to where the A380 story begins, because the origin of this aircraft is inseparable from the vision of Asian aviation. The A380's first commercial flight was on October 25, 2007 with Singapore Airlines, flying from Singapore Changi Airport to Sydney Kingsford Smith Airport in Australia. Tickets were auctioned off for charity, allowing passengers to fly on the iconic double-deck airliner for the first time. Singapore Airlines, an Asian carrier, was the first airline in the world to put the A380 into commercial service. Not British Airways, not Lufthansa, not American Airlines, which never ordered a single one. Singapore Airlines launched the aircraft to the world on October 25, 2007, and the tickets for that inaugural flight were so coveted they were auctioned off for charity. Think about what that moment represented. A tiny city-state, Singapore, with a population of just 5.5 million people, operating the world's most ambitious passenger aircraft for the very first time in history, an Asian airline introducing the world to the future of aviation. Emirates was the second customer for the A380, receiving its first aircraft on July 28, 2008. Its inaugural flight was from Dubai International Airport to New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport. Emirates of Dubai, the second airline in the world to operate the A380. an airline backed by the Dubai royal family, launched in 1985 with just 2 aircraft, becoming within 2 decades the airline that would define the A380's legacy more than any other in the world. These were the pioneers, and they were both from Asia and the Middle East, not Europe, not America. Asia saw what this aircraft could do before anyone else did, and Asia committed to it before anyone else did. And that commitment, that belief in the A380 at a time when Western airlines were hesitating, is exactly what put ordinary Asian passengers inside the world's most extraordinary aircraft for the price of an economy ticket. Part 3. How Asia came to own the A380. Here is the ownership picture as it stands in 2025. There were 189 aircraft of 251 delivered in service with 12 operators as of May 2025, with Emirates being by far the largest operator with 116 A380s in its fleet.
Other top operators are British Airways with 12, Singapore Airlines with 12, and Qantas with 10. Reuters Institute. Emirates, 116 aircraft, out of 189 in active service worldwide. That is 61% of every A380 currently flying, operated by a single airline, from Dubai, in the heart of the Middle East and Asia's gateway to the world. But Emirates is not the only Asian and Middle Eastern carrier keeping the A380 alive. Singapore Airlines flies 12, Korean Air flies 10, All Nippon Airways of Japan flies the aircraft, Etihad Airways of Abu Dhabi operates A380s, Qatar Airways operated them, though it has been reducing its fleet. When you add it all up, Asian and Middle Eastern carriers operate the overwhelming majority of the world's active A380 fleet. While airlines across France, Germany, Malaysia, China, and Thailand have retired their A380s completely, the carriers of Asia held on. No American airline bought the A380, and instead focused on the fuel-efficient Boeing 787 and the Airbus A350. Air France, Thai Airlines, China Southern Airlines, and Malaysia Airlines no longer operate the A380. Not a single American airline, ever. Delta, United, American Airlines, none of them bought one. The most advanced passenger aircraft ever built flew its entire production run without a single aircraft ever joining an American carrier's fleet. That decision, or rather Asia and the Middle East's opposite decision, is why ordinary passengers in Dubai, Singapore, and Seoul are experiencing something that American flyers will likely never experience at all. Part 4. The West gave up. Asia didn't. Here is why. The story of why Western airlines retired the A380 while Asian carriers kept it is the story of 2 completely different visions of what aviation should look like. Western airlines, led by thinking from American carriers, embraced what the industry calls point-to-point flying. Instead of routing passengers through a massive central hub and then redistributing them on connecting flights, they wanted to fly directly between as many city pairs as possible using smaller, more fuel-efficient aircraft. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner and Airbus A350 were built for exactly this model. Efficient twin-engine jets that could profitably fly thinner routes without needing to fill hundreds of seats. For that model, the A380 was wrong. Completely wrong. It was too big, too expensive to operate when not full, too dependent on high passenger volumes to be profitable. And at airports where slots were not constrained, where you could add frequency rather than capacity, there was simply no need for a plane that carried 600 people. Most other airlines that experimented with the A380, including Lufthansa, Air France, and Singapore Airlines, have either retired or drastically reduced their fleets. Their reasoning was simple. The aircraft is too large for most routes, too costly to operate when underfilled, and too inflexible for dynamic scheduling. But here is what the Western model missed, and this is the insight that explains everything. For Emirates, for Singapore Airlines, for Korean Air, the hub model was not a limitation, it was the entire strategy. Dubai International Airport sits at the geographic crossroads of Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. Almost any long-haul flight between the West and the East passes within reach of Dubai. Emirates built its entire business around that geography, funneling passengers through Dubai from every direction, connecting them onward to wherever they needed to go. Emirates not only became the largest operator of the A380, but also built much of its brand identity around it. With almost 120 units available, the Dubai-based carrier's fleet dwarfs that of all other airlines combined. For a hub-and-spoke model at a constrained mega-airport, the A380 was not just useful, it was perfect. Moving 500 passengers between London and Dubai on a single aircraft is dramatically more efficient than moving them on 2 smaller planes. At airports where slots are limited and adding frequency is impossible, capacity is everything. Asia understood that. The West did not. And the passengers who benefited from Asia's understanding are the ordinary travelers who booked economy tickets and found themselves on the greatest aircraft ever built. Part 5.
what ordinary passengers are actually experiencing. Now, let us talk about what it actually feels like, because this is the part that makes the whole story real. An ordinary passenger boarding an Emirates A380 in economy class is experiencing something that is genuinely different from any other aircraft in the sky. Spoiler alert, it's a first-class experience without the hefty price tag. Emirates Airlines is consistently ranked among the best airlines in the world. The Emirates crew members, dressed in stylish red and beige uniforms, are friendly and professional without being overbearing or robotic. They really go the extra mile to ensure everyone is happy and feels like a valued guest, even in economy class. The ICE entertainment system, information, communication, entertainment, on the Emirates A380 offers over 4,500 channels. Movies, television, music, games, live television, moving map displays showing your position over the Earth in real time, on a screen larger than most people have at home. The cabin noise on the A380 is significantly lower than smaller aircraft because of the sheer mass of the fuselage absorbing vibration and sound. Passengers consistently report that the A380 feels calmer, smoother, and quieter than any other commercial aircraft they have flown on. And then, there is what is happening upstairs. Passengers associate the aircraft with an unmatched onboard experience, with private suites, onboard showers, a bar lounge, and quieter cabins. Even economy passengers benefit from the aircraft's comfort and space. The Emirates A380 has an onboard bar on the upper deck, where passengers stand at 40,000 feet, having drinks, talking to strangers from the other side of the world, in an aircraft they paid $350 to board. Singapore Airlines brings its own extraordinary experience. Singapore Airlines First Class on their Airbus A380 is limited to just 6 seats, promising exclusivity. Passengers indulge in sumptuous suites, gourmet cuisine, and a curated entertainment selection. But below that first class, in economy, ordinary passengers experience the characteristic quietness, spaciousness, and comfort that the A380 size simply provides to everyone on board, regardless of what they paid. Singapore Airlines has a consistent seat pitch and width across their A380 fleets. Their economy class seats on the A380 are in a 3-4-3 configuration, with consistent pitch and width throughout the cabin. This is the democratization of extraordinary aviation, not because Asia planned it as a social project, but because Asia's carriers needed to fill hundreds of seats on every flight. And the way you fill hundreds of seats is by making economy class worth flying. Part 6. The price and why it is extraordinary. Now let us talk about what ordinary passengers are paying to experience all of this. Economy tickets on Emirates A380 routes, depending on the route, the season, and how far in advance you book, can be found regularly in the $300 to $600 range for long-haul international flights. During promotional periods and off-peak seasons, prices can go lower. Emirates offers a multi-course meal in economy class, alongside complimentary fruit juices, soft drinks, wines, beers, and spirits. Complimentary alcohol, full multi-course meal service, 4,500 channels of entertainment, an onboard bar on the upper deck, a quieter, smoother, more spacious cabin than any other aircraft in the sky, for $300 to $600. To put that in context, an economy ticket on a domestic American flight covering 500 miles with no meal, a 6-inch entertainment screen that costs extra, and a seat that was designed for someone who has never eaten a full meal in their life can cost $400. You can fly further on a better aircraft with better food, better entertainment, more space, and an onboard bar for less money. Because Asian carriers decided that the A380 was worth keeping alive and worth filling. The cost of the world's longest A380 premium economy fares typically range within the $2,000 to $2,500, although this varies by discounts and season. The Korea Herald. Even at the premium economy level, for the world's longest A380 routes, flights of 15 to 16 hours covering over 8,000 miles, the price remains within reach of ordinary travelers planning an international trip. This is what Asia's commitment to the A380 produced. Not just a prestige product for the wealthy, an extraordinary experience accessible to ordinary people. Part 7. The aircraft that will never be built again. Here is where the story takes its most poignant turn. In February 2019, Airbus announced it would end A380 production by 2021 after its main customer Emirates agreed to drop an order for 39 of the aircraft. Reuters Institute. The last A380 ever built rolled off the production line in 2021. The tools and jigs used to manufacture it have been dismantled. The supply chain has been wound down. No new A380 will ever be built. Of 251 Airbus A380s, 22 were scrapped for parts,
including those from Malaysia Airlines, Air France, and Singapore Airlines. 22 of the 251 ever built have already been scrapped, dismantled, turned into spare parts for the ones still flying. The fleet is not growing. It is slowly, inevitably shrinking. Emirates plans to keep flying the A380 until the late 2030s. With delays in the Boeing 777X certification, Emirates will likely continue operating its A380s into the early 2040s, particularly after committing to nose-to-tail retrofits on part of the fleet. Emirates is spending billions retrofitting its A380s, complete nose-to-tail rebuilds every 3 weeks to keep them flying as long as possible. New interiors, new premium economy cabins, new entertainment systems, treating each aircraft as an irreplaceable asset worth investing in, because there will never be another one. Emirates is retrofitting 60 aircraft since the start of the program in November 2022, with one aircraft undergoing a comprehensive nose-to-tail refresh every 3 weeks, the Korea Herald. One aircraft rebuilt every 3 weeks. The scale of that commitment is staggering. But here is what it means for the ordinary passengers in Dubai, Singapore, and Seoul. The window for experiencing the A380 is finite. These aircraft will not fly forever. As the years pass and the fleet shrinks, the chance to board one will become rarer. And then, one day it will be gone. The greatest passenger aircraft ever built, available right now, for the price of an economy ticket, on Asian carriers that believed in it when the rest of the world gave up. Part 8. Why this is about more than an airplane. Here is the bigger picture that the A380 story reveals about Asia, and it is worth sitting with before we close. The story of the A380 is the story of two different visions of the future coming into direct conflict. The Western vision said efficiency, smaller aircraft, point-to-point, less fuel, more flexibility, optimized for cost per available seat mile. The Asian vision said ambition, capacity, connection. Build the infrastructure for the world you want, not just the world you have. Invest in the experience that makes people choose you over everyone else. And Asian carriers that believed in it when the rest of the world gave up. Part 8. Why this is about more than an airplane. Here is the bigger picture that the A380 story reveals about Asia, and it is worth sitting with before we close. The story of the A380 is the story of two different visions of the future coming into direct conflict. The Western vision said efficiency, smaller aircraft, point-to-point, less fuel, more flexibility, optimized for cost per available seat mile. The Asian vision said ambition, capacity, connection. Build the infrastructure for the world you want, not just the world you have. Invest in the experience that makes people choose you over everyone else. And every ordinary passenger who boards an Emirates A380 or a Singapore Airlines A380 or a Korean Air A380 today, for the price of a couple of nights in a hotel, is the beneficiary of that dream. Subscribe if you want more content like this. This channel tells the stories about Asia that go deeper than the surface, the ones that reveal what this continent is actually building and where it is actually going. The world gave up on the greatest aircraft ever made. Asia didn't. And ordinary people got to fly it because of that.